people were really waiting for this appointment to find out who it would be. Why Atul Gawande? Tell us about him.
Yeah, so Gawande is a surgeon. He's a sort of health policy, healthcare researcher, and he's a journalist. So that's kind of exciting for us. He's written a lot about, essentially what is wrong with healthcare in the U.S. And his articles are read by people like Warren Buffett, like Barack Obama, like the former Secretary of Health and Human Services, Sylvia Burwell. So people pay attention to what this guy thinks and sort of how he wants to change healthcare.
It's hard to say there's any celebrities in the world of healthcare policy, but he is probably the closest thing there is, extremely popular among the sort of TED Talk set people, ideas, leaders. What does someone of his wattage potentially enable the company to do?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So he is essentially a healthcare celebrity. He's going to be the face of this new venture. And one thing that's important is this is a guy who is respected by people like Warren Buffett, Jamie Dimon, and Jeff Bezos. So he's a person who will be able to sort of command the respect and attention that this venture is going to need to succeed. And I think people are now saying, okay, who's the next guy they're going to name, or the next woman who they're going to name to be the COO, things like that.
So if you're just like a standard operator, he might not be able to sort of get them all on board with his idea.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I'm clearly a brilliant individual and has investigated, done reports, is very well known in the sector, as you said, a great word, celebrity. But what about the practicalities of management here,
right.
and actually just running what will be a significant business that we're not really sure ultimately what's going to do in the end? So I'm confused.
Well, that's right. I think people are expecting that he will build a team and sort of build a company around this venture. It'll be based in Boston, and they'll give him some time. Jamie Dimon and Warren Buffett have both said, this is going to take years.
Yes.
So, stay tuned.
Yeah. When they announced this venture, it was sort of viewed as revolutionary in a lot of ways, a new thing. And here's a guy whose thinking is also viewed as forward thinking. What are his big ideas?
Yeah.
What are some things he might try to put into action here? Because largely his writing so far has been theoretical, right? Have we seen examples of the kinds of things that he wants to have happen?
Yeah, he's written a lot about how there's a lot of variation in how people are cared for. So, people who are sort of the same level of sick get very different care in different parts of the country at very different costs. And he's kind of pinpointed that and said, we can do a better job of caring for people at a lower cost. And I would expect him to bring that, and probably an emphasis on sort of basic primary care versus, fancy specialty care. I would expect him to bring things like that to this venture. The big sort of knock against him, as folks have mentioned, is he hasn't run a big company, he hasn't run an employee health plan. So, but he's a smart dude. I would give him some credit there.
Yeah, I was Googling him, and he's done a lot of work into overdiagnosis and over-treatment as well, and incentive or bad incentive structure in the medical, the setup of the system in the United States, which is quite fascinating too. What does it being independent from the three companies actually mean in this case as well? Because that was on the statement, which I thought was quite interesting. Right.
So I think the companies want to give Gawande some space to define what he thinks is the best approach to fixing healthcare across these firms.
One point that Bloomberg opinion columnist Max Nissen made that I thought was interesting is that it could be that he implements things that the employees of these companies really don't like. If they don't like certain things, we might like our wasteful spending or the ability to see a specialist on call, even if it's bad healthcare efficiency policy. Could that create some interesting tensions in your view?
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for him. And also to point out, it's not just three companies. Berkshire itself is 30 companies.
Right.
So he's dealing with everyone from fancy investment bankers at J.P. Morgan to the guys who are loading the boxes in an Amazon warehouse or driving the trains.
Railroads,
yeah, exactly, for Warren Buffett. So I think that is going to be a huge challenge for this venture. Is how do you kind of get all these disparate people on the same page when it comes to healthcare? What does that even look like?
That'll be really interesting.
The beauty of that, though, I guess, is it gives you some ability to make this scalable on a broader basis because
a real cross section of the economy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, totally.